Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So I'd like to talk to you, right? And I know that my videos lately, 2-3 months, have been very isolated in their concerns, right? It's not like I'm trying to make a video that a lot of people are going to click on. I'm trying to make a video that I think might be helpful to men who are struggling in difficult circumstances, as I am myself and as I have been, because I think that this can offer some genuine insight and help to my fellow MGTOW brothers. So that's intentional, right? I'm not reaching for anything like popularity or just like some sort of good time, happy exchange, but rather, these are serious overall life-arching issues that men are facing. And knowing that I wanted some insight and some guidance moving through much of this, I offer what little I have acquired through this behavior, through this kind of a situation. So that's what I'm doing. And the example that I have is myself. That's it. I can't speak intimately, in detail about other people's thoughts and ideas and feelings and the things that they're struggling and going through, but I can do that with myself. So that's largely, what I've been doing. And I need to do a little bit more of that, right? Because, it's also, it helps me. So let me talk to you about managing your life's happiness, because I feel like I know you guys, okay? I feel like I know the kind of internal struggles, the kind of internal conversation you're having with yourself through these types of circumstances, because I figure it's very similar to my own. So I'm not complaining here, okay? I know it sounds like I'm complaining and I'm angling for some sort of sympathy or something like that. I'm not. I'm angling for some sort of insight. I'm angling for some sort of breakthrough. I'm angling for giving some sort of peace to the troubled mind, to the broken, angry spirit within us, to the injustice of the situation that we as men must face, or as we as men do face. But it isn't all of us, is it? It doesn't seem like we all suffer equally, does it? Indeed, we don't. So what if you've got a limited capacity to feel good in any given day? Like you've got 100 units of dopamine that can naturally be utilized without tapping into some serious reserves, such that you won't have enough tomorrow or in the evening, and such that it doesn't create a habitual pattern of escapism and hedonistic pleasure seeking and like unthinking emotional pacification and feeding, if you understand what I mean. Okay, so you've got your 100 units. Now, I know that most of you are very strong, hard men. Hard times make strong men. These are hard times, okay? But you still only have 100 units of natural dopamine. And I'm just using that as a baseline so that we can have this conversation. Now, if you're like me, you work very hard in the day, physically. Like you tap into, all of your reserves, and you fall asleep very early. And as a result, you wake up very early. And as a result of the type of man that you are, because I think you're very much like me, you get up very, very early, okay? Well before the sun. And you begin your day in darkness, cold, isolation. Nobody there. That's normal for men like us. It was normal for my father. And you go about your day, which probably has some sort of a structure and program to it. Like you're not just getting up at 4:30 in the morning and hanging around. Right? So no big deal. You're tough. You can handle it. Now, again, if you're like me, and I think you are, a lot of work, a lot of responsibility comes your way, is placed on your shoulders, and you don't complain, at least not externally. Perhaps there's a little bit of internal, like, this sucks. But no, not really. You just do what you got to do and go through it. And you should be proud, as am I, of my ability to do these things. So you do your job. There's no thank you or good work or anything like that. And there's no pay in most instances. It's not, when I say a job, I don't mean a job you're getting paid for. I mean, these are responsibilities. So I have tons of that. And I do mean literally tons of it, in that I will pick up and move what amounts to tons worth of weight. Now, this is something that, any fit, healthy man can do for a day or two or three, or maybe even 4 and 5. But I've been doing it my whole life. This is my life. And what I suspect is that at the end of the day, my 100 units of dopamine are probably sitting at something like minus 50, right? The longer the day goes on. So if you catch me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like, how you doing, Howard? And it's like, I'm doing great. How you doing? Catch me at 4 or 5, like, how you doing, Howard? And it's like, I'm good. How are you? Catch me 7 or 8 at night, and if I'm still, plugging away at it and I haven't had anything to kind of replenish that dopamine, meaning I haven't been able to sit down for an hour and have a meal and maybe, watch a TV show, get a laugh, something like that. Now my dopamine levels, are sitting at minus 50, minus 70. And you say to me, how you doing, Howard? And I say, I don't want to talk. Okay. I just say, yeah, fine. And I walk away. And so I head maybe to the kitchen to get myself a glass of soda or even just a glass of water. Okay. Because figure it's going to make me feel good. Figure I need it. And I get there and there's no soda. It's done. Maybe somebody else drank it, right? Or maybe I didn't have as much as I thought. So now my dopamine, which was sitting at like minus 50, now, goes down to minus 70. And that is too much, right? At that point, like, I was good up until that point. I was like, look, this is how life is. I'm strong. What the hell did I expect? I am capable. I can rise to this challenge and I will overcome it as I have all the other ones in my life. But now there's no soda and I lose it. I don't lose it externally. I don't, start screaming and smashing things around. But internally, perhaps I do. Perhaps this is the point where I say, God, why? Why are you so unfair to me? Right? And it's like, come on, Howard, you're holding God to account over a glass of soda. But the truth is, no, that's not what I'm holding God to account for. I'm holding God to account for the 50 years leading up to it. And now the missing soda is just the straw that broke the camel's back. And this is internally, right? Because attitude matters. This conversation that we have in our head, it's probably the biggest deal in our lives. This relationship with ourselves, how we look at the world. Do we look at it, as a hero? Do we look at it as a victim? Do we look at it as something to be avoided? When there's a challenge and a circumstance, are you the first to step up with a good attitude? And we could kind of translate that as plenty of dopamine, not false dopamine. Not like drug-induced dopamine, but a genuine attitude of resilience, of strength, of positivity. So at this stage, you can understand why somebody is reaching for a drink, for some comfort food, for their favorite TV show. And you can see how this is affecting pretty much all people, right? Now, the harder your circumstances, chances are, the more challenging this situation can become, but that's not a guarantee. At one point in my life growing up, it was kind of like late junior high school, I was around the children of very wealthy people, famous people you would know. Like if I started tossing out names, you'd be like, well, really? That's interesting. My parents were not particularly wealthy, but I did manage to go to this school. So you might think that they have it much easier. These are kids who, they're materially, they want for nothing. They get given brand new, very, very expensive cars on their 16th birthday. They crash them and they get another one. Their father owns the dealership, right? Father owns a Mercedes-Benz dealership. And we are inclined to think like, wow, that person has it easy and I have it hard. And maybe that's true. So maybe they have 150 natural units of dopamine where bad things could happen to them throughout the day. Difficult things could happen. And it's is not going to bother them too much because they have the resources. They'll be okay. They can blame somebody else. Someone else will fix it for them. So they're not particularly stressed over, these difficulties, which take away from their ability to just feel basically good in life. So it's a very sad story, right? Some of us, have very difficult circumstances. Some of us persevere throughout very difficult circumstances throughout our whole lives. And then maybe something happens. We are at our limit, and internally there is an accusation, a criticizing of existence itself, this holding God to task. And that, can happen over just a minor little thing, dopamine resilience and dopamine resistance. You've got somebody who gets everything or appears to get everything they want in life. And, if you look at them and you say to them, hey, you're going to have to, wait an extra minute, they're like going over the edge and flipping out with like an angry Karen attitude of entitlement. And, you've got another person and it's like, man, we're going to put you in jail for 5 years for something you didn't do. And they're like, into every life some rain must fall. So yeah, we can have different levels of sensitivity to the dopamine. But I'm talking about when we're essentially running out, where life has become so hard, circumstances so difficult that we are running out. Okay. I know that's where you exist. I know that that's your baseline. Okay. I know you're up at 4:30 in the morning doing the work that nobody else will do. And I know that it's physically taxing. I know that it's not nothing. Like you can say to yourself, this is what I do. These are my habits. And indeed, that's what I say to myself. So 4:30 in the morning and I'm walking many, many miles and carrying many heavy things. And that's just normal. And the other people are warm in bed and getting ready to have their breakfast and getting ready to preheat their car so that when they get in it, it's nice and toasty so that they can drive to Starbucks. And I take pride in the fact that, I'm the one up at 4:30 doing the hard work. And it shows too, right? Like if you come up and you meet me, you're like, okay, here's a fit, capable man. How you doing? And if you meet these other people, you're like, my God, this is a soft, pudgy, distracted, emotional being, right? Like if you could hook up a brainwave monitor, an EKG, up to their brain, you would see it's just a bunch of erratic, shortwave, emotional peaks and valleys. And as new things are introduced, it's just this clutter and there's just this emotional response, which is linked to dopamine. Did you know people are addictive? And not just like one individual person, which that's also true. A kind of strange codependency can form, but people in general. This is why some people hate to be alone. They really do. You know what I mean? Like if they're alone, they're not getting their dopamine. They are not feeling good. The reason is because every time you have some small social interaction, you get a hit of dopamine. How you doing? How's it going, man? What you got planned? You get anything good for Christmas? Have any New Year's resolutions? And you're like, yeah, man, this is what happened. That is what happened. How's it going with you? What's going on with you? And the other person, you do this exchange and you say, okay, man, good to see you. Take care. And you move on. And that's a hit of dopamine right there, assuming that, you kind of like the person. But it goes away pretty quick. It goes away in about 5 minutes. Okay. So 5 minutes, that person needs to run into somebody else and say, hey, how are you? How's it going with you? What's going on with you? They get their exchange, they get their hit of dopamine, lasts for about 5 minutes, and then they need to be around another person. Some exchange. And if they don't get that replacement hit of dopamine. And now they're upset. And now they have some negative emotions going through them. So being around people is addictive. Almost everything falls into this pattern, this cycle of addiction. But if you're like me, you're alone and you're not soft and pudgy and emotional and greedy for interaction with people. And so you don't seek out much of that and people don't seek you out for much of that. So none of those dopamine hits for you. But what this does is this upregulates your serotonin, your ability to just, feel content within yourself. So understand, this polarity dynamic between dopamine, man, I just want things that'll, cheer me up a little bit versus, hey, I'm just fine the way I am. I don't need anything. Serotonin. Okay, fine. You're following along. You understand. You can relate. And now, with all of this work, with you going around with, say, only 50 units of dopamine in a day, because you've used it up with hard work and with, hard, difficult times and circumstances. Now it's Christmas time. Now it's the holidays. And everybody around you seems to have gotten an extra 50 units of dopamine. And now they're walking around with 150 units of dopamine. But guess what? You, who are only walking around with 50 units of dopamine, because of the holiday seasons and some of the extra responsibilities, we've just tapped into half of your existing pool. So now you only have 25 units of dopamine. And the world around you has 150 units of dopamine. So that person is an angry person. They seem like a bitter person. They don't take joy in anything. I've largely stopped listening to music. I don't like it. It offends me. Great art, great comedy. I don't take a lot of pleasure in things, because I really don't have the extra energy to do it. So this little circumstance that I've just kind of brought to you, this is what I live through. This is my existence. And I'm usually pretty good, but once I get down to a certain level, which is that level of what I consider to be my hardships, and then everybody else has, got their celebration and their party and their gifts, well, even Howard Dare starts to feel, under the weather, tapped out. And it's real. It's like the immune system itself is now suffering. The immune system itself is like, man, you're putting me through too much. So you're doing this to yourself as well. See, the difference here is that I'm aware of it. I can see that this is happening. Not when I'm going through it. When I'm going through it, I'm just angry and upset. But then I get a good night's sleep. I wake up, as I have this morning, and it's not so bad. I'm okay. Or at least I'm okay until I get down below that, 50 units of natural dopamine. So you can understand why people get addicted to drugs. You can understand why people turn to emotional eating. Almost a great deal of our eating is emotional. It's not like, our body is craving this particular nutrition. Although with all the processed food and junk food that we eat, it is. If you're fostering a kind of mindfulness to your own internal dialogue and emotions, you might notice that whenever anything stresses you out or thwarts your plans and hopes and dreams and efforts, whenever anything negative happens, there's this bounce back effect of, what do you mean I'm not getting the raise, or the bonus? It's like you said I was getting the raise or the bonus, and now you're telling me I'm not. Boss says, I'm sorry, made a mistake. If you then receive some more bad news, disappointment, and it can be something really simple, like I lost my lighter. Where's my lighter? Or where's that last glass of soda that I was expecting? It can be the simplest of things. And the physiological response is set off. And now the recrimination of the universe, of life and existence itself, of your individual suffering, which you were willing to look aside from. You just wanted to come home and get a glass of soda and have a little bit of peace. But even that has been taken away. And now everybody else did get a bonus. They did get a raise. They're at the Christmas celebration having food. But you are stripping out the new property that everybody's moving to prepare it. You're the one who's, cleaning it all out. So they're having a party and a celebration with fat bellies, and you're up at 4:30 in the morning in the cold doing the hard work. They're not saying thank you. They're not paying you. They're not saying Merry Christmas to you. They're not inviting you to the party. No, the only time they'll contact you is when they need work done. So that's pretty much where I exist. And no matter how hard I try, no matter how many times I say to myself, hey man, this is what life is. Be a man, be strong. Complaining doesn't help. Having a negative attitude doesn't help. So, I've got that dialogue going on in my head, and it's true. It seems to be true. But once I get down to a certain level of a lack of dopamine, of a lack of an ability to feel good, I break. And this is internally. Like I don't pitch a fit or throw a tantrum, right? But internally I do. And then my immune system starts to suffer, like some internal physiological, things. It's like, shit, I can't afford this. I remember, this has happened to me multiple times, but, I was very upset about something. I wouldn't let it go. This was an internal, situation. Life is unfair. And I just held on to it day after day after day. And after about 4 or 5 days, I started to get sick. I realized, okay, I've got a flu, a virus, something's coming on. And my attitude, my negative attitude, my harsh judgment of anything and everything happening around me is causing it. But it's not just a choice on my part. It's not just like, choose to not let it bother you. It's like, no, I've reached that limit. I've reached my limit, and it's real and it's painful, and we suffer. I suffer. You suffer. Can insight to this cycle forestall allow us to mitigate that suffering? I don't know. I mean, this is, down to the wire. As I said, a good night's sleep might, helps. I don't let myself sleep more than 6 hours. And, there's the cortisol. There's the stress, which is kind of, like a flight or fight being triggered. And there's the cortisol. So I try to lose belly fat, right? I don't like having a big belly. I don't have a particularly big belly, but I've got a little bit of a belly going on. Which is interesting because, as I said, a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of moving, a lot of walking, a lot of carrying, lots of it every day. And yet still the belly fat. I've approached this from many, many different angles. And I'm starting to come to the conclusion that it's not diet, it's not exercise, it's stress, it's cortisol, which disallows the removal of the belly fat and the storage of the belly fat. Now, you might be saying, no, Howard, it's carbohydrate, sugar, insulin situation. And there's truth there, but the rest of my, body and physiology is just fine. Like, I'm not overweight. I just have a little bit of a belly. So I think it's stress and cortisol. And I think that, this internal dialogue is ramping it up, the cortisol, the stress on a regular basis. So we have to learn how to take care of ourselves. We have to learn how to give ourselves 8 hours of sleep. We have to learn to not be so hard on ourselves. We have to learn to be compassionate with ourselves, even if the world, the circumstances, and the people around us don't. This can be challenging. Notice we could fall into this cycle quite naturally, quite easily. In other words, we want to help. We want to be useful. We want to be strong. We want to be capable. So as problems come up, we step up to the plate while others step back, while others need a reward to motivate them. No, we are internally motivated. We do what we do because we choose to do it. See, I'm choosing to reach out to men and to use myself as an example. I choose to do that. One of the rewards for this willingness to take on harsh, heavy responsibility is strength, is form following function. And so if we take one of you and we make you work physically for 8-10 hours a day, grueling with very little to keep you going, chances are you're going to become quite strong and quite immune to harsh circumstances. And if we take another person and we give them whatever they want, whenever they want it, because they might get upset, form following function, we're going to create a very soft, an easily upset person unable to rise to the challenges around them. But they'll be happy, See, that's not even necessarily true, but, it kind of is. So what do? We just keep plugging away, huh? Okay, make sure you get yourself a good night's sleep. Make sure you don't push yourself so hard that internally the resentment starts to grow. See, I'm fine with this circumstance until everybody else starts getting presents, going to holiday dinners, and I'm still in this cycle of very hard work, of sacrifice, of suffering. Suffering will make me strong. But now everybody else is having a party, and I alone. Of course, you see, that's not true. But, we are all alone. We all, you can be around people your whole lives, but internally, you are alone. You can share your feelings and ideas, but at the end of the day, when you lay your head on your pillow, you are alone with your thoughts and feelings. And if you're not able to manage that situation, or if the circumstances around you can overwhelm your ability to do that, this is a difficult place. I wish I had the answer for you. All I can say to you is that being aware of this, managing this, can forestall perhaps the idea of you losing it and externally pitching a fit, complaining, going negative. Now, the danger is that once you go negative in your own mind, and this is how it works for me, much of the damage, that's where it's incurred. But, what's the alternative? That you're going to lie? It seems like we're lying to ourselves and fooling ourselves to maintain a positive attitude. And it's okay to a degree. But but I can only go so far. Like this rubber band can only stretch so much. And you too can only stretch so much. So I am aware of what many of you are going through, the internal struggle. The individual details of what you're going through, I don't know, but I do know the life force, the reserves that it taps into. I know the internal conversation that takes place, independent of the circumstances, once we reach that limit. And I have compassion. I know that the better you are, the stronger you are, the more of this you take on. And I don't see any reward from the external world for you, for that, or for me. Is the form that we get to assume based on the function we fulfill, is that the reward? Is our ability to endure hardship and to be alone and to not receive any sort of thanks or gratitude or acknowledgement, is that ability the reward? If there is no reward, how long can you go? Your whole life? Surely there are moments of pleasure and joy interspaced within this. Of course, you do get that glass of soda once in a while. You do develop the ability to, if you do run out of that glass of soda, but to go and get that to go and get that soda. So this is what I'm focused on. This ability to alleviate the suffering of the good man, the insight, the compassion, the gratitude for what he's doing, for the struggles that he is going through, for the character that he is building, for the form that he is assuming based on the functions that he fulfills. A champion unto yourself. So I guess, as the circumstances become more and more difficult, it's harder and harder to maintain a positive internal dialogue. And I know how unfairly men have been treated over these last 10 years or so. It was setting up long before that, but we've really seen it come to a head, with just the basic idea that masculinity itself is toxic and that the good man is some sort of, metrosexual feminist who wants to distribute tampons in boys' bathrooms, who wants to say it's offensive to use the term ladies and gentlemen because there might be one or two people in the audience that don't identify as male or female. So just basic ability to interact in the world is threatened, is undermined, is undercut from this masculine, rational, logical, function-based perspective. So you're trying to be a strong person, go about your life, do the things that you need to do, and you are a villain, you are a criminal, you are abusing people, you are toxic. Oh, you want to be strong? You want to be able to endure through this? Well, you're toxic, bro. You're an evil man. And now, while everybody else enjoys their Christmas celebrations, you get to go work in a junkyard. Does that sound about right? Does that sound accurate? I know that there's many men out there that are much stronger than I am and have gone through much more than I have, but not all. I imagine they're saying, Howard, man up. That's right. That is the circumstance. And you must prevail despite that. Or they didn't make it, or they're gone. They pushed themselves as hard as they could. They reached their limit. Internally, they broke down. Perhaps they expressed it externally. Perhaps they didn't. Perhaps it would have helped. I don't know. Their immune system started to take the hit because that's what happens. Okay. If you push yourself beyond your physical limits a little bit, you'll get, and then you rest and take care of yourself, you'll get stronger. But if you just keep pushing yourself beyond your physical limits, and I do mean that, beyond your physical limits, like your muscles are breaking down, there's nothing in them but the will to continue, and you continue. then I believe that the immune system starts to take the hit. And then I believe a person gets sick and dies. I don't want to get sick and die just because I'm a good, hardworking man and I largely exist around people that, are just not that thing and don't appreciate that thing. And as a matter of fact, what they do is they find fault with that thing because they are not that thing. So understand that is what's been happening, okay? The women, media, our political system, our institutions, educational system, justice system, financial systems have been punishing men for their strength, for their virtue. And it doesn't make sense. Anybody going through this, young man is saying, I'm your pack mule. I'm your worker, and you won't take care of me. You won't even give basic human decency to me. Oh, you'll be sorry when I'm gone. But of course they won't be because they can, pack mules are pretty easy to replace. So your value to the external world is not particularly great, no matter how great you really are. That's harsh. Again, I don't have the answers. The only answers that I've heard from people are, oh, well, despite whatever the circumstances, keep a positive attitude. And that positive attitude will manifest all your hopes and dreams. And then you will be happy like me. That's what I hear the world saying. Of course, it's not true. Or maybe, it's just not true for me or you. I think this is why we need other people. Not all the time. And it would be a mistake to just build that area, because it's a dopamine hit. I believe this is why sometimes when you just say hello to somebody, you're like, oh my God, this person is draining all of my energy. And everything they seem to think and do and act with is this emotional drain. Just to hear their point of view is to be set up and manipulated, right? I've spoken about the guy, that I got to be a roommate with who was just trying to help, who had subjugated himself his whole life. Oh, you got a problem? I'll take care of that. No, you don't have to reward me or pay me or thank me or anything because, I'm just useful. That seemed to be his general attitude. And yet he didn't really do that. You know what I mean? Like, if he had done that, he would have been strong and fit and healthy. And he wasn't. It was the exact opposite. So he was pretending to do that. And whenever you met up with him, he was like, yeah, and you should do that too. Like, do you need me to do your laundry? I'm just trying to help. Like, oh, you should tie your shoes by putting the left lace over the right lace first, not the right lace over the left lace. I'm just trying to help. The letter B comes after the letter A. I'm just trying to help. And they can even fuck that one up. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get a lot of that too. It's interesting. People talking, people sharing their feelings, people confessing, their internal states. And it's usually just a manipulation. And so they try to, so it's this formation of this terrible kind of codependency. It's like they've got their madness and delusions and self-abuse habits of behavior that do not serve them. And they just want other people to, acknowledge and support, these behaviors and to adopt these behaviors as well. And if they don't, it's like, well, I'm just trying to help. No, they're not. They're not just trying to help. They're trying to judge you. They're trying to tell you what to do. They're trying to impress you with how intelligent they are. And it's tiresome, and they're not, right? So you've got somebody trying to give you directions to the gas station, and they don't know where the gas station is. They just want to be, the one who gets to stand up there and talk, right? It's like the scene in Gone with the Wind where the doctor asks, little Missy, it's like, do you know anything about delivering babies? And she's like, oh yeah, I know everything about delivering babies. I've been delivering babies my whole life. And then it comes time to deliver the baby and the doctor's not there. And, Scarlett's, it's like, you said you knew how to deliver babies. And the little black girl says, I don't know nothing about delivering no babies, Miss Scarlett. Right? So you've got people talking to you and they're saying, oh yeah, I know everything about delivering babies. Because in that moment, they just want to be important. Now, are there some real people out there that you can count on, that you could do business with, that you could start a project with and move it to completion without, unnecessary stress? Sure, there are. Of course, there are. These are the people who you are trying to emulate. These are the people, and the skills that you are trying to build within yourself. Yeah, so I'm feeling real unappreciated. And I too have my limits. And I guess when I just keep going through endless, work and struggle, I'm fine. When other people don't have to go through that endless struggle and more of it is heaped onto me as a result, I'm fine. When the people judge me and abuse me or neglect me to build themselves up, I'm just fine. But when all of these things happen and then they get to go to a party and I just get to continue on in the hard work, I kind of start reaching my limit. And I wouldn't be surprised if that were true with you as well. So you are not alone. I am not alone. When they're training somebody in a martial arts system, and I mean like a school, but a real school, like they've got real secrets, okay? They don't give the real secrets to all of the students. Find yourself some books on Japanese swordsmanship that go into detail about all of the various techniques, all of the cuts. And what you'll see is that the names of the cuts are very strange, like, the two monkey cut, the bird rat cut, okay? And, the bird rat cut is about how to strike something that's above your head and then transition to a cut that is at your feet. The two monkey cut is perhaps, to deal with two opponents on both your left and your right side that are circling. It's hidden. The truth of, what's really going on here is hidden. It's not laid out explicitly because these secrets are only available to the people who have gone through all of the other aspects. So now you're in the kumite. Now you're in the, fight of one opponent after the other, and you win. You make it through. Okay. It's, 3 days of, 10 fights every day, and you've made it. And you're exhausted and you have reached your limit. And then they say, oh, wait, no, you got to do 31 fights. And this last person that you have to fight is that student that we kicked out who stabbed you illegally in the throat. So they're a cheater too. So perhaps that's what's going on. Perhaps this is the kumite of life. The universe, you, yourself, something will push you to your limit. And even if you overcome, and even if you prevail, that wasn't the test. The test is, okay, now that you've reached your limit, now the real test begins. And the idea is to let someone see and learn how to tap into a whole new reservoir of human strength. And that even when you think you are at the end, it's like, no, we can summon one more out of you. And if you can learn to call on that ability, no worries, you'll be okay. And we can give you the secrets. And you will know that you're not to give those secrets to anybody until they get to that stage, because it won't serve them. It'll actually just kind of build up their ego falsely. It'll just kind of build up their dopamine reserves where they don't need it, where they're not really learning how to manage it. So, that's what I'm trying to talk about to you. Managing your internal happiness and states such that even when the circumstances are beyond human endurance, that you still have something to call upon. Okay. So that's the positive message, right? And I suppose I'm grateful for all the hard times and all of the difficulties. Most of the kids that I went to school with that I had mentioned earlier, who got everything that they wanted in life, do you know how they turned out? Even if they were like world famous and really successful, and I'm talking for real here. They destroyed themselves. Their lives were horrible. Interesting, isn't it? All right. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Like, this has helped me get a little bit off my chest. I hope it's kind of helped maybe some of you out there to be like, yeah, I'm not alone, right? And we're going through some hard times and we're going to make it, and we're going to make the world better for ourselves and for the people, that are behaving in a worthy, virtuous manner towards life. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate. I would really appreciate the donations. And join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.